Welcome to Tuesday Talks, the best young entrepreneur video series that focuses on interviewing successful young entrepreneurs and learning what makes them successful. Welcome, David. We are happy to have you on the show today. In a few minutes, I'm going to ask you a few questions that we know our audience would love. But first, would you mind telling me a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. David Richter, and I own Simple CFO Solutions, and we help investors, specifically real estate investors, help them know their numbers, make more profit, keep more profit, and be able to know where they stand as far as their finances go. So if I had to boil it down to just very short of what we do, that's what we do in a nutshell.
Okay. So we're just going to get jumping into the questions. So first question, did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
No. I feel like I've had that bug in me, but I don't know if I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Where I was a W-2 employee for a long time, and that to me, I liked helping out, and I liked being a part of a team, and it was neat. It was neat seeing a company grow from about 5 to 7 employees in like a little blue house that we were working out of doing real estate investing deals to where we were doing 300 deals at one time and had 25 people. So it was cool seeing that as an employee and that growth. And as an entrepreneur now and actually starting my own business, it's been an adventure in itself. So I don't know if I would say I've always had that I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I will say I've kind of always had that bug to be
Yeah.
an entrepreneur.
What would you say like your hardest like transition from being like an employee to entrepreneur,
These
like
are
your
good,
own
great
employer?
questions. So, I mean, the biggest thing is with an employer, you feel as an employee that you have some measure of security. So I would feel that's probably the biggest thing is realizing it's not really secure, especially when something like what's happening right now in the world, we're going through the coronavirus and COVID thing. A lot of employees figured out that they weren't as secure as they thought because you know who knows what's going to actually happen with the business. So I would say that's probably the hardest thing because you think you have that security. And then when you're an entrepreneur, it's all on you. But then also, that's a blessing at the same time because if you fail, it's all on you too. So, so as an entrepreneur, you get to kind of take the reins a little bit more and get to do that. But it's kind of that mentality of knowing, like, hey, if I'm going, you kind of make your own luck kind of thing inside of the business where the harder I work, the luckier I get. So I'd say that was probably the hardest thing transitioning over is just making sure to break free from that mindset of like, yeah, that job isn't secure. And just like this, the harder I work, or I should say even the smarter I work and the more value I provide, the more that I can go out there and build this thing bigger and better. So I'd say probably the hardest thing was just that mentality switch of being that W-2 employee to being an entrepreneur and really knowing like I can go out there and provide a lot of value and I can provide it quickly. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people have that like mindset where they think they can do it, but like just transitioning over of
yeah,
like believing in yourself and that you can do it.
exactly. That was definitely one of the hardest parts.
Okay, so next question. If you could go back to 16-year-old you, and give him some advice, what would it be?
So I would say to buy houses right then. Start investing in real estate as early as possible. I bought my first house at 19 or 20, but probably I'd probably tell them like, hey, here's a couple books you need to read right now instead of reading them a few years from now because it was really some books that really changed my mentality. Reading Rich Dad Poor Dad in college, probably sparked it. So I'd probably hand my 16-year-old self that book versus my 19 or 20-year-old self that book. So probably handing myself a couple books and saying, hey, read these. These will change your life faster and you'll be able to get an even more head start of what you want to do and where you want to go.
Yeah. Okay, so who are your top three mentors?
My top three mentors. Another great question. I'd say number one, my dad. I have a I was blessed with great parents and I like to say that the only reason I am where I am is because of mentors and people that have helped me. And definitely at the top of my list are my parents, specifically my dad too when it comes to business and whatnot, because he was in he was in real estate for a long time. He worked in downtown Chicago, and then he transitioned to working in Northwest Indiana, like buying and selling houses too. So I got to learn a lot from him. And then it's hard to do top three because that one was easy. But then my other ones are probably, oh man, I'd have to say your dad. I'd have to say Gary Harper. He's probably the one that pushed me the most into being an entrepreneur because we had a long conversation because I kind of was telling him about this idea when I first had it with the simple CFO solutions and really helping investors on the financial part, being able to know their numbers and whatnot. And he said that is such a needed thing and basically pushed me into saying like, hey, if you don't start this now, or if you don't do something, you never know what you could really accomplish. And it's not like he was promising anything or like, and it was just it was that push into it. I would say that was probably one of the biggest things that helped me to start this business. And then from there, I've had a lot of interactions with him and respect him a lot. So I'd also, like I said, it's hard to just name three because then there's a lot of other people that have helped me along this way. Like I said, it's a collection of people. It's
Yeah.
a tribe, a village that's helped me get there. Probably Tom Olson too has been a huge mentor in my life. When I was working in Northwest Indiana with Gary and Wayne and Tom and everyone, Tom was always a really great friend to me and to my wife and to my family. And, it kind of took me under his wing, and he's still done that over these years too. So those are, man, and like I said, it's hard to just name three, but if I had to absolutely name three, those would probably be my top three mentors.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
I
get
have
to
to
this.
honorable mention for Wayne Schaefer too, because he's the one that employed me for 5 years, that helped me, that put me in all the different seats inside of real estate. So I mean, that I
Yeah.
can't, I have to put him in there too, because without Wayne, I wouldn't know a lot of this stuff. And I know Gary and Tom were working there too, and I learned a lot under them. But I mean, Wayne was the one that took a chance on me to be a part of that company, years ago. So
Yeah.
honorable mention there too. Sorry.
How do you manage discouragement when things are not working out?
How do I manage discouragement? Man, you have the best questions here. Especially during this time,
Yeah.
it's even more easy to get discouraged because hey, you're sitting in the same place usually for 7 days in a row, or whatnot, unless you actually get to go to your office. I worked from home anyway, so like not much as far as like what I was actually doing changed as far as the work environment, but like going out a bunch on the weekends, it's that stopped, like with what we were doing. But as far as discouragement, and usually I'm contacting my mentors. I'm usually reaching out to them if I'm discouraged. So your dad has gotten some text from me when I've been a little discouraged. So is Tom, and so is my dad. So talking to good people has really grounded me. I've also started devotionals too, a lot more in the evening, and I try and post those on social media at least once a day, where I try. I'm a, me, but whoever's listening to this might not know, but my faith really helps me too, where reading the Bible and praying and trying to be grounded every single day. Not to say that I'm perfect, and not to say that that happens all the time, but reading devotionals from people that I respect and have gone down paths like this before, knowing that other people are going through this right now or have gone through it before or whatnot. So trying to get that inside my head, the positivity is probably a big thing, I would say, because it's very easy to get discouraged, but especially if all you're feeding yourself is the news and all the discouragement out there. So it's getting around the good mentors, good people, that has really helped me. And then the other thing is probably what I could do myself in my free time is instead of, like I said, scrolling through Facebook or scrolling through the news feeds, it's okay, what does God say in his word about this? Or what has someone that's gone through this, what have they done during this time? So that's probably what's helped me when I do get discouraged. And like I said, it's easy to get discouraged right now, but those two things I'd say are the biggest things that have helped me.
Okay. Um, what are some of your long-term goals, and what are you doing to prepare to stay successful during this changing time?
Sure. So as far as long-term goals, our our company supports some missionaries right now. So my long-term goal is to support about 50 missionaries on the field. I know Josh Keller has has a lot of the same goals. He's got, I think, the goal of 100 to support, but that's one of my long-term goals. I'm big on giving too. So I started this business so I could try and give more too, and be able to actually, go out there and build something that wasn't just feeding me, but it was feeding other people too. So I'd say one of my long-term goals is to support more missionaries. And so that's one thing that the business does currently, and that we're trying to add. We added one during the downturn too, just because I wanted to kind of step out there by faith. And so I'd say that's also contributing to trying to be successful during this downtime too, because I feel like the people who might stop giving during this time, they're going to see it come back to bite them in some way. So I would say I'm trying to give even a little bit more during this time too. So that way, I know that we can never outgive God. So I'm trying to give a little bit more. And that's not to brag on me. That's more to brag on him. Like, hey, I want to give so that way we can stay afloat, and that because I want to care about his work too. So that's one thing that I've done. And I want to just admonish people that, if you haven't started giving, maybe that could be a thing that could help you during this time too, even though it seems like now is not the time to add anything in expenses. But that's just one thing. The other thing I've done during this time is probably reach out to some more people, as far as like not mentors, but like connectors and people that know other people, and trying to see what can I do to help them to add value right now. Because with being a service-based business, I'm really not into looking for cold calls or anything like that. I want people to know, like, hey, if you work with me, you're going to get the value, and they're going to be able to weather the storm too. So that's what I'm trying to do now in order to weather the storm, is just let people know like what I do. Because I feel like the big thing that I do is help people in exactly times like this, know where they stand, get a plan in place in order to get to move themselves forward. Just like I put a plan in place too. I use Profit First to know kind of where my business is, and know where, like, is there money in my different accounts, to make sure that I know and how much cash on hand do I actually have. So that's another thing too. It's like I've done that for myself. So that's one way I've prepared for this. And while getting through this, it's just letting people know what I do and helping them get through this time. We've been able to help some people get through the SBA loans and the PPP loans, those different loans for people. So it's really just letting the real estate investing world know that what we do to help them during this time.
So Profit First, could you explain a little bit like what Profit First is? Like, I know it's like the grandma envelope system, but can you explain it in like your own words?
Sure. That is a good way to explain it, and a very simple way to explain it, because the envelope system is, if you've heard of that, it's where you're, taking your income and apportioning it across that for your personal expenditures. But for a business, you're basically setting up bank accounts, and anything that comes in as income based on certain percentages, you're allocating them into different bank accounts. It's not more complicated than that, but it takes accountability and discipline. So that's where I come in to help businesses know what the percentages they should have based on the size of their business, hold them accountable, and help them have that discipline in order to know, like, where should that money go once it comes in, and to keep a handle on it too. So that way they know their cash flow. So it's really a cash flow management tool, and it's really a tool to be able to say, like, hey, is my business healthy or not? Because am I able to be able to save for my taxes, or save for my operating expenses, save some to make sure I can pay myself, and make sure that the company's healthy too, because you want to apportion some to profit from every single dollar that comes in. So it's making sure that you're a healthy company, and making sure that any dollar that comes in needs to be spent on something, whether it's for paying yourself, or paying your taxes, or paying the operating expenses of your business.
And you can implement this personally too, right?
You can implement it personally, of course, because you had mentioned the envelope system. So if you want to be more high tech than envelopes, you would set up different bank accounts for yourself at your bank, saying like, okay, this is going to be my, the rent, or like my mortgage, or whatever it might be. And this account might be for all of the other expenses in my household, or it might be something like that. This is what I'm saving for taxes throughout the year. If you end up owing taxes, you might not on the personal level if you have a W-2 job, but it all depends on what you allocate as far as that goes. But yes, you can definitely set it up for your personal side too, if you wanted to. And then it just takes like I said, it takes the accountability and the discipline. of being able to, everything that comes in gets portioned out across those percentages.
Great. Okay, so we're gonna get into our last question, probably the hardest question. So, if you could pick any superpower, what would it be?
Ooh, probably flight.
Flight?
Flight, the power to
Why?
fly. Yeah, I've always wanted to. I've always been a big admirer. Superman's my favorite superhero, so that's my favorite superhero, and I always love the power of flight, especially now. Oh man, if I could fly now during the coronavirus, I could get. I wouldn't have to worry about taking a car anywhere, a plane, you know, any public transportation or whatnot whatsoever. So, especially during this time, I think I would like that power a lot.
Yeah.
But just in general, that's always been something that I've enjoyed. I like this Peter Pan, Superman, any hero that could fly. Growing up, I really always was like, oh, I'd always love to be able to fly. But I think now more than ever, that power is more relevant
Yeah.
to be able to fly and get around, because right now we're all stuck at home. So
All right. As always, today's show is super valuable. I just want to thank you, David, for being on and sharing your experiences.
no, and I appreciate being on and letting me be a part of this, Jake.
Yeah, thank you.